From homeless to millionaire, a black man's journey that even Elon Musk and Donald Trump admire. Ethan stood at the edge of the grand ballroom, the glittering chandeliers casting cold light over the swirling crowd. This was his best friend's wedding, lavish beyond reason, filled with champagne toasts, elegant gowns, and endless laughter. Yet inside, Ethan felt hollow, like a ghost watching a life he once dreamed of, but never quite reached. It was wild to think about where he'd come from. Just 10 years ago, he was sleeping under a highway overpass, clutching onto nothing but a tattered jacket and a worn-out dream. No money, no family, no clue. People couldn't believe the headlines when his tech startup exploded overnight, making him a millionaire before 35. Elon Musk even sent him a congratulatory message once. Donald Trump, rumored to have called him one of the sharpest minds in tech today. But all the fame and fortune didn't stop the loneliness. Ethan felt like he was drift. Then, out of the blue, he saw her, the face that tightened his chest and made his throat close up. His ex-wife, Isla, the woman he loved and lost, was walking through the crowd right towards him, smiling but with a strange distance in her eyes. And right beside her was the new fiancé, a man Ethan barely knew, tall, confident, but carrying an eerie calm that made Ethan's skin crawl. The room froze in his vision. Whispers began to spread like wildfire. People nudged each other and stared, some with pity, some with judgment. "Is that Ethan's ex?" one squeaked. "And who's that guy? Looks dangerous!" Ethan swallowed hard, heart pounding louder than the music. Every step she took closer was like a punch to his gut. He wanted to fight for her, to say everything he never dared, but his hands trembled and his voice cracked. Just when the tension hit its peak, a distant relative, a quirky, sharp-tongued woman with eyes too bright, stepped into the spotlight. She dropped a bombshell that sucked the air out of the room. The new fiancé wasn't just some stranger. No. He was linked to Ethan in a way no one expected. Something about family ties, secrets buried deep, and tangled roots none of them saw coming. The crowd gasped. Ethan's mind spun. His world, built on control and success, began to crumble. There was the fight to win Isla back, yes, but also this new threat, a hidden connection that tangled his past and present into a knot so tight it hurt to breathe. Sin seguridades cloan a él. Was he just a broken ghost from the past? Was Isla better off without him? Could he even protect himself from this shadow that lurked so close? A ruthless force was already circling, hungry for a fall, ready to exploit his weakest parts. The night grew darker. The music faded into a tense silence, broken only by quick gasps and the murmurs of shocked guests. Ethan had to make a choice: stay silent and lose everything to the shadows, or fight before the truth blew his life apart. But could he uncover the hidden truths in time? Or was he doomed to be left with scars and questions that haunt him forever? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, Drop a powerful like, that really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The night hung heavy with tension. Ethan felt his heart racing as the air swirled with shock and whispers. That unexpected revelation hovered like a dark cloud, threatening to unleash chaos. Isla was a few steps away now, her smile faltering. The crowd gasped in sync. Ethan's thoughts raced wildly. Who was the new fiancé? Why did it matter? And how could his world suddenly feel so fragile? The atmosphere shifted again. Suddenly, the ballroom doors swung wide. A tall figure burst in, his presence commanding instant attention. A police officer, with an unyielding look and troubled eyes, strode into the middle of the crowd. Faces turned, expressions flipping from curiosity to confusion, a tidal wave of emotion crashing through the room. I need to speak to Ethan Davidson. The officer's voice boomed. It cut through the chatter like glass shattering. Ethan's blood ran cold. Whispers started again, louder this time. What's this about? What did he do? Is he in trouble? Ethan's stomach twisted. Every accusing glance from guests wrapped around him like a chokehold. Me? Ethan stepped forward, trembling. What's going on? The officer's eyes narrowed, fixing on Ethan like a hawk. We have a situation concerning your past. And it's serious. Isla's face drained of color. The fiancé shifted uneasily, eyes darting between Ethan and the officer. Tension crackled. Ethan could hear his heartbeat pounding in his ears, drowning out the music, paralyzing him in place. What do you mean, my past? Ethan managed to ask, voice hoarse and low. He felt like a marionette, strings cut and floundering in the limelight. I'm afraid, the officer hesitated, glancing around the crowd. This isn't easy. We've come across some troubling evidence tied to a crime committed long ago. One that might implicate you. Gasps filled the space, muffled whispers slicing through the air. A crime? Someone croaked. Couldn't be. Eyes turned to Isla, then back to Ethan. Was it possible? The room felt like it was spinning. What had he done? What kind of evidence? Evidence? Ethan barely whispered, barely holding on. What kind of evidence? Your name, the officer replied, calm but heavy, is linked to a missing persons report. The room went silent. A collective breath was held. The faces around him morphed into a blur of shock. Ethan's world tilted. Memories flooded back. Fragments of his past he wished he could outrun. Faded images of dark alleys, desperate nights, angry voices. Memories he had buried deep, believing they were gone forever. Damning seconds ticked by. Isla backed away, her hands trembling at her sides. The fiancé stepped closer, a predator scenting prey. What did I do? Ethan demanded, panic crushing his voice. But no one answered. The officer merely glanced at the crowd, letting the silence do the talking. Ethan, the officer said finally, voice steadying him. You need to come with me. You might be able to clear your name, but we have to act fast. The weight of the world pressed down hard. His life was unraveling like a cheap sweater. threads tangling into something he couldn't even recognize. Friends, family, Isla, all of them stared, shattered trust glimmering in their eyes. If he stepped away from this moment, could he come back from the edge? Or was he destined to fall into the shadows, haunting him since the start? As he faced the officer, Ethan felt the walls closing in. He could fight, maybe uncover the truth, or simply flee, crumbling into the chaos. But which path would lead him to freedom? The night was no longer just about love lost. It was about uncovering dark secrets, and Ethan's fight had just begun. The music faded completely. Every eye in the room turned toward Ethan. He felt like a spotlight was being shined directly on him, burning and blinding. Isla and her fiancé were now locked in his gaze. What was he supposed to say? Crash the silence, shatter the moment. Then the unexpected happened. A loud crash echoed through the ballroom. A giant crystal chandelier, swaying slightly, let loose a thunderous shatter. Glass splintered and rained down like tiny stars falling from the sky. People screamed, ducking for cover, eyes wide with fear. Ethan's heart raced, pounding against his ribcage. Had it really broken? Was that a sign? Was this the universe telling him to let go? Or was it a dark omen, warning him of deeper troubles ahead? Amidst the chaos and noise, a figure darted through the crowd. A man rushed toward Ethan, hands up, panic etched on his face. Ethan, you need to get out of here! What? Why? Ethan's voice barely made it out, caught in his throat, tangled in confusion. And then he remembered. That look on the new fiancé's face. It wasn't just confident. It was predatory. This man was a threat. Before he could react, the stranger clenched Ethan's arm tightly. I'm serious. It's not safe. Ethan shook free, adrenaline fueling him. What are you talking about? He scanned the room and saw Isla frozen, her mouth agape, fear painting her features. The fiancé slipped away, disappearing into the chaos. What's going on? Isla's voice broke through. The churning crowd, filled with murmurs and panic, vanished from Ethan's mind. He pulled her close. I need to know who he is. She stared back, her brown eyes wide, shimmering with unshed tears and fear. He's my brother. The room spun again, shock settling into the pit of his stomach like a heavy stone. Your brother? What do you mean? The words barely left his lips when the stranger lunged forward again, shouting, He's dangerous! He knows everything! You have to trust me. Ethan backed away, questions rushing swifter than his racing heart. Everything? What does he know? I can explain later, the man insisted, glancing nervously around. But Isla's life depends on it. The crowd began to thicken, and tension danced in the air. Something dark and deep was stirring. Secrets unfolded before his eyes, threads pulling tighter. Ethan's vision narrowed in on Isla. She was his past, the love he lost. But standing beside her was a man now tied by blood, and perhaps secrets that cut deeper than anything he could have ever imagined. Then Isla's fiancé emerged from the frenzy, moving toward them. The calmness on his face made Ethan's skin crawl. He could see that predator's grin and the steely glint in his eye that said he knew something. Something that could ruin Ethan forever. Stay away from her! Ethan shouted, his voice rising against the chaos. The gravity of the situation dropped hard, squeezing him like a vice. Or what? You'll ruin your life again? The fiancé chuckled, but the sound was cold, devoid of warmth. A challenge hung in the air. You really think you can protect her? You're just a faded memory. All eyes were back on them. Judgment hung thick. But as those words swirled, a thought ignited in Ethan's mind. This was much bigger than the three of them. Secrets of family, trust, betrayal, all swirling like shards around him. Ethan, the stranger urged, this isn't just about love. It's about survival. And with those words, a shattering revelation crashed into Ethan's awareness. What if Isla was never really lost? What if this connection was not just blood, but a dynamic that could trap him again? A whirlpool of questions erupted in his mind, swirling with urgency. He stood on the precipice of chaos. Could he confront the truth in time? Or would he be swallowed whole by a shadow lurking too close, too familiar? The ground beneath him trembled, and Ethan wasn't sure he could stand. Ethan stood frozen, the chaos around him a dizzying blur. Every heartbeat echoed in his ears, but all he could focus on was Isla's wide, terrified eyes. Is he really your brother? He whispered, desperation clawing at his throat. Yes, she said, her voice barely escaping, taut with fear. He's been searching for me, Ethan. I didn't know. Her words trailed off, a mixture of horror and regret hanging thick between them. The stranger who had warned him stepped closer. Urgency etched into his face. This is bigger than we thought. You have to listen to me, he said, glancing around as if shadows were closing in. Your ex-wife's fiancé isn't just dangerous. He's been connected to things you can't imagine. What do you mean? Ethan couldn't take his eyes off Isla's face, the anguish there tightening around his chest. What could he possibly want with her? Suddenly, the fiancé moved closer, calm yet unsettling. You should have stayed away from her, Ethan. Now you've opened an old wound, he crooned, a chilling smile spreading across his face. You have no idea the history we share. Panic set in. Ethan instinctively stepped forward, putting himself between Isla and the man who claimed to be her brother. Get away from her, he shouted. The room buzzed with tension, eyes darting between them, whispers spiraling like smoke. Before anyone could react, something shifted behind the fiancé. A flash of motion caught Ethan's attention, a glint of metal, sparkling like a sinister star in the chaos. Watch out, he yelled, but it was too late. A loud bang erupted, silencing the crowd. It didn't sound like a gun. It felt like the room itself had splintered. People screamed, ducking and diving for safety. Ethan's heart pounded against his chest. For a second, everything hung in the air. The chandelier swayed. Guests recoiled. And in that heartbeat of panic, he caught a glimpse of the fiancé. His calm facade shattered into rage. This isn't over, he roared, sprinting toward the exit with a blurring speed, while chaos reigned behind him. Ethan spun on his heel, scanning the room. The stranger ripped open his shirt, revealing a badge while kneeling beside Isla. Stay down, he barked, eyes darting, the panic palpable. The crowd erupted in shouts, shrieks filling the air. Ethan's chest tightened. What the hell just happened? His voice cracked, trying to wrap his mind around it all. The fiancé was gone. Both beautiful and terrifying. tropical calmness had shifted to storm, leaving destruction behind. Isla trembled, her hands clutched to her sides. "Ethan, we need to leave. He knows everything about us." "Who knows what?" he demanded, gripping her shoulder. The tension of secrets and lies hung between them like thick fog. "What have you not told me?" Before she could respond, the officer turned back toward them, urgency etched on his face. "Ethan, there's more. That man, he isn't what you think. He's linked to a crime syndicate, and they're coming after everyone connected to him." The truth sent icy daggers slicing through Ethan's gut. Suddenly, it all unraveled. The pieces he thought he knew didn't fit. Secrets he'd buried were surfacing, bringing with them consequences more profound than he could handle. Isla's breath hitched. "You need to trust me," she pleaded, desperation dancing alongside fear in her eyes. But Ethan wasn't sure anymore. He could feel the ground shifting beneath him. Suddenly everything, the success, the riches, the dreams, felt like fragile glass. "Do I even know you?" he whispered, both terrified and hopeful, the weight of her silence crashing around them. And as that question hung in the air, the night shifted again. The shrill sound of sirens pierced through the room, each wail tearing through his thoughts, opening the door to a world of danger he might not be ready to face. What did Isla really know? Where did this chaos lead? And how could he protect her when he wasn't sure he could protect himself? The answers loomed like shadows, darting just out of reach, pulling him deeper into the dark. Ethan felt the air crackle with tension as the room held its breath. Isla was just steps away, and everything around him blurred. He had to focus. But then, unexpected chaos erupted. A loud crash pierced the silence, like glass shattering underfoot. The crowd turned, eyes wide with shock. A waiter had dropped a tray. Champagne glasses rolled and clinked against the marble floor, echoing in the stunned atmosphere. Da-da-da-da. But that wasn't all. Amidst the brewing storm of those shimmering spectacles, a man from the corner stepped forward. He was tall, his demeanor unsettling, a thin smile twisting across his lips. "Ethan," he called out, voice smooth as silk but laced with venom. "You didn't think you could hide forever, did you?" Every eye was now locked on Ethan, judgment swirling around him like a hungry beast. Panic swelled in his chest. Who was this man? Deep down, Ethan felt a root of recognition shoot through him, but he couldn't place it. The mysterious man stepped closer, brushing past Isla, his gaze unwavering. "You may want to remember your past before it catches up with you again," he said, his words dripping with cold truth. "I'm here to set some things straight." Ethan froze, heart racing, mind fogging over. The secrets of his past were rising like smoke, threatening to suffocate him. The whispers faded, and tension tightened around his throat. He caught sight of Isla's expression, confusion, concern, and something darker. "Ethan," Isla said, her voice barely a whisper. "Do you know him?" "No," he shot back, the words snapping from his lips like a rubber band. "I don't know who he is." A new round of murmurs exploded in the room. Guests leaned in, eager to catch every nuance of this unfolding drama. Judgments were drawn. The quirky relative from earlier had vanished into the crowd, leaving only shadows and ghasts in her wake. Then the man laughed, a low, unsettling chuckle that sent chills racing down Ethan's spine. "Don't play games with me. I know who you are. More importantly, I know who you were." He leaned even closer, the air between them heavy with unspoken truths. "We share blood, Ethan. I'm your brother." The world tilted beneath Ethan's feet. His breath caught in his throat, and the dazzling lights of the ballroom dimmed. His mind spiraled. How could this be? How could this be? He had no memory of a brother, no family ties, no history, just him against the world. Gasps shot through the crowd, and the whispers turned to shocked silence, punctuated only by the quiet sob of a guest in the back. Isla's eyes widened, facing him in disbelief. "Ethan, is it true?" He felt the panic rise. The shadow from his past was here, throwing his reality into chaos. Ethan opened his mouth to respond, but found no words. The ground beneath him felt unsteady, shifting beneath the weight of this revelation. Each heartbeat, or would he face this unexpected family tie that threatened to unravel his whole life? Ethan took a deep breath, steeling himself. He had come too far to back down now. Yet the question remained. Could he stand strong when everything he thought he knew was crashing like broken glass at his feet? Ethan stood frozen, overwhelmed by the tension swirling around him. The whispers of the guests filled the air, a cacophony of speculation. Isla was just a few steps away, but it felt like miles. His heart raced, breath coming in shallow gasps. Then, just when he thought the night couldn't get any worse, the new fiancé stepped forward and broke the fragile silence. "Ethan," the tall man said, his voice smooth, almost sinister. "I didn't expect to see you here. Seems you've gotten quite a rise from your humble beginnings." Laughter erupted from nearby guests, the sound sharp enough to cut through the tension. Ethan's stomach twisted. How dare he? The shadows loomed larger, suffocating him. But then the unexpected happened. One of the guests, a middle-aged man with a graying beard, suddenly stumbled back, clutching his chest. Gasps filled the air as he toppled over, crashing into the nearest table. Wine glasses clinked and shivered on their delicate stems, spilling crimson liquid that pooled around him like a dark omen. Ethan's mind raced. He ran forward, instincts kicking in. But then he froze again. The new fiancé's eyes locked onto him, and something flickered there. Something sinister, predatory. Ethan paused, a chill creeping dentro de su espalda. Then, without warning, the man bit his lip and spoke. "That man, he knows more than you think, Ethan. The truth about your family, the secrets that could ruin you." His voice dripped with icy confidence, echoing in the ballroom. Ethan's heart pounded anew, but this time with confusion. What truth? The crowd around them murmured, disbelief painted across their faces. An older woman gasped, grabbing the arm of the guest beside her. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. "What secrets?" The fiancé turned to the crowd, a smirk playing on his lips. It's quite the tale, really. He seemed like a hard-working man, but family history would change everything. Ethan's blood ran cold. What could he possibly mean? Were all these years of success built on a lie? Enough! Ethan shouted, his voice cracking, anger boiling over. You don't know anything about me! But the crowd was too enthralled, leaning in, waiting for the next piece of drama. The middle-aged man on the floor struggled to breathe, his eyes wide with fear. Another guest rushed to help, but the fiancé just laughed softly, clearly enjoying the chaos. Trust me, Ethan, he said, eyes glittering like shards of glass. You're going to want to know how deep those roots go. Ethan's mind raced, memories of his youth surfacing, his mother wrapped in secrets, his father's unexplained absence. Questions that once seemed buried now clawed at his thoughts, demanding answers. Suddenly, the middle-aged man gasped one last time, eyes rolling back as the crowd gasped in horror. "No!" someone screamed, shoving past the stunned guests. The music screeched to a halt, panic spreading like wildfire. Ethan shook, caught between the fading echo of a life he thought he'd built and the shadow of truths he didn't understand. The fiancé's words echoed in his mind, dark and flooding with possibilities. As sirens began wailing in the distance, breaking the spell of the glamorous night, one question hung in the air, lingering like smoke. How far would the truth go to unravel everything Ethan thought he knew? Ethan's pulse thudded in his ears as he sat. His heart raced, drowning out the laughter and music that once felt like a celebration. Isla inched closer, her smile wavering, eyes searching his. The new fiancé narrowed his gaze, the chill in it chilling Ethan to the bone. Just then, that relative's voice echoed, slicing through the tension like a knife. Did you know that Isla's fiancé is actually your brother? Gasps rippled through the ballroom. The world fell quiet around him, the air thick with disbelief. Ethan froze, his mind staggered. No way. That had to be a joke. The room was spinning. Your half-brother, she clarified, her eyes gleaming with the thrill of the revelation. Your father had another family, one he never talked about. The words felt like a punch. Ethan's chest tightened, a wave of nausea washed over him. He stumbled back, eyes darting between Isla and the fiancé. Was this a cruel trick? How could you hide this? He managed, voice trembling. Isla, tell me this isn't true. She opened her mouth, yet no words came. Only the flicker of confusion in her eyes revealed how unprepared she was. The crowd was alive with whispers, excitement bubbling beneath layers of judgment, pity, and shock. The fiancé straightened, a smug look creeping onto his face. Looks like family trees are more twisted than we thought, huh? He relished the moment, feeding off the energy of the crowd, as if he thrived on the chaos. Ethan's heart thudded painfully. Betrayal clawed at him, but he couldn't turn his back on Isla. You knew? He demanded, shattered pieces of trust crashing down between them. You didn't tell me? No, I just found out. Isla's voice shook, her expression anguished. The truth pivoted everything. This man standing next to her, the man carrying her future, was kin through blood. Ethan's world, neatly constructed by years of effort, crumbled in moments. Was this a deliberate choice, or a sick twist of fate? Questions swirled in his mind, but a new voice suddenly surged forward, cutting through the shock. We need to talk, Now! A woman shouted from the back. Swift and severe. The crowd parted as she pushed through, an air of authority trailing her. Tall and commanding, she seemed to radiate urgency with every step. She turned to Ethan, her voice steady. "I'm Sarah, a private investigator. We need to discuss what I found out about your father. The story goes beyond siblings." A murmur coursed through the room, and every head turned toward Ethan, eyes filled with anticipation. He felt exposed, raw, the weight of countless curious glances crashing against him. "Your family isn't just complicated, it's dangerous," Sarah continued, a fierce note in her voice. "And you're at the center of it. There are people who want to silence the truth." Silence envelops the crowd. The ramifications hanging thick in the air. Ethan's breaths quickened. The dread sunk deep inside as he looked at Isla, pain dancing across her features. Was love enough now? He was ensnared in a web of family betrayals and threats he never saw coming. Ethan had to make a choice, confront this dark, twisted legacy, or walk away from everything he thought was real. His pulse raced, thoughts making rapid turns. The walls were closing in. What if this revelation unleashed something sinister? His heart hammered, and as he peered into the sea of faces, uncertainty churned in his gut. What had he stepped into, and was there any way out? He needed answers, fast. Ethan stood there frozen while Sarah's words echoed through the room. The air buzzed with disbelief. Isla's face morphed from shock to fear. Guests leaned in, their breaths caught in collective, nervous anticipation. Ethan's pulse raced, emotions whipping around him like a tornado. "Your family isn't just complicated, it's dangerous," Sarah reinforced, intensity radiating from her. "And you're at the center of it. There are people who want to silence the truth." The murmurs rose again. Shadows flickered behind Ethan's memories, vague warnings woven through threads of his past. His heart sank deeper into his chest, heavy with dread. He wanted answers, needed them. Isla bit her lip, her voice cracking. "Ethan, we have to focus. We can figure this out together." But even her words felt shaky. The fiancé took a step closer, smirk unyielding, eyes gleaming like knives. "You're just digging your own grave, Ethan. You were better off forgotten." Then, suddenly, the middle-aged man lying on the floor gasped for breath, his chest heaving. Chaos reemerged as guests rushed to help him, hands flailing, thoughts spinning wildly in fear. "Get back!" Sarah shouted to the crowd, panic pouring from her voice. But it was too late. The man groaned, face twisting in agony. And then everything exploded. A loud bang rang out, like a gunshot, echoing through the ballroom, shaking the walls, knocking crystal from the chandeliers. Guests screamed, ducking for cover. Ethan's heart dropped, his breath catching. The air turned electric, thick with terror. Isla stumbled back, eyes wide, gripping Ethan's arm like a lifeline. "Ethan, what's happening?" she cried, fear lacing her words. He scanned the room, panic gripping him like a vice. And there, emerging from the smoke, was the fiancé. Anger twisted his features, his usually calm demeanor shattered. "You think this is a game?" he howled. waving something in his hand, something shiny gleaming under the overhead lights. Ethan realized with horror. It was a gun. He felt the world tilt, his heart racing as quickly as his thoughts. Everyone's screams escalated, chaos erupting like a summer storm, panic taking over. "Get down!" Sarah yelled again, and the crowd erupted into mayhem. Isla grabbed Ethan's hand, her grip tightening. But he felt paralyzed, caught in the chaos. Memories crashing around him like a tidal wave. "Stay! Stay with me!" Her voice was frantic, but fierce. "You think you can protect her?" the fiancé yelled. "You're nothing but a faded story." And then, without warning, he fired. The gunshot rang through Ethan's bones, a shockwave of sound that halted time. For a moment, there was silence, followed by a gasp that echoed through the ballroom. Ethan turned his head back to the floor, where the middle-aged man lay, gasping still. But it wasn't him who had fallen. It was Isla. Ethan's stomach dropped, the realization hitting harder than a punch. She crumpled to the floor, eyes wide. Confusion splattered across her features. Time blurred as he rushed toward her, the chaotic world fading away. "No! Isla! Please!" he screamed, the sound tearing from his throat. The crowd vanished into a muted haze. Eyes turned away, gasping, but Ethan couldn't look away. As he reached her side, the room spiraled. A warm crimson blossomed from her side. Panic raged within him, his heart hammering as he knelt beside her. "Isla, stay with me! Please, don't close your eyes!" But her gaze was drifting, darkness pulling at the corners of her vision. "Ethan," she whispered. I didn't know." The world around him exploded into chaos again, but it all felt distant. All he could see was her face, and all he could think was, how could this be happening? And as sirens wailed in the distance, sharper than the gunfire, a question hung heavy in the air. What truth had just been ignited? And how could everything spiral so far, so fast? Ethan knelt there, the world shrinking to just him and Isla. Her eyes were filled with shock, widening as she struggled to breathe, the warmth of blood seeping through her fingers. "Ethan," she murmured, the strength leaving her body. He felt time slow as he pressed his hands against the wound. Panic flooding through him, a desperate urge to keep her alive. The room erupted around them. People shouted, scrambling for help. The guests had moved to the edges, eyes wide and faces pale. Horror painted across their features. The loud chaos of the gunshots still echoed, a haunting reminder of how quickly everything had spiraled. "Oh, somebody call an ambulance!" Ethan shouted, his voice hoarse, panic clawing at his throat. But the sirens were already wailing outside, getting closer. Then, just as he turned to yell again, a loud crash resonated from the grand entrance. The door slammed open, and in walked a figure cloaked in shadow, a mixture of urgency and menace in their stride. "Stop everything!" the figure commanded, voice booming like thunder. Ethan's heart raced anew. He glanced back at Isla, her eyes fluttering. His world narrowed. The crowd, frozen, redirected their attention to this new arrival. The shadow stepped closer, revealing a woman in a dark coat, fierce and intent. "Ethan Davidson, it's time you learned the truth." He blinked, confusion swirling in his brain. "What truth?" he managed to choke out between breaths. "Not here," she gestured frantically. "We need to leave. Now!" Before he could respond, the new fiancé launched forward, anger flashing in his eyes. She's a liar. Don't listen to her. But as he lunged toward Ethan, the woman spun, flicking her wrist. Something glinted in her hand, a weapon that caught the light. The air shifted, electric with tension. "Step back," she commanded, voice full of authority. At that moment, a scream pierced through the turmoil, slicing through Ethan's fog of confusion. It was the middle-aged man on the floor, the one Ethan had seen collapse. "It's not just a bleeding wound," he gasped, desperate spluttering punctuating his words. "Ethan, you need to—" Before the man could finish, the lights flickered, and in one horrifying second, darkness enveloped them. A soft thump, followed by a crackling burst. "Isla!" Ethan shouted, panic ringing in his voice. A second later, the lights surged again, illuminating chaos. Isla was gone. Gone! The realization hit him hard, like a blow to the gut. She wasn't where he had left her. "Isla!" he cried out, fear transforming into something deep and primal. Laughter erupted, cold, menacing, echoing from the shadows. Dot. The fiancé stepped back, smirk replaced by disbelief. "You don't even know, do you?" he said, looking as if he were seeing Ethan for the first time. "What she is, what she's capable of." Ethan's heart raced. "What are you talking about?" But before he could comprehend, the woman pointed her weapon at the fiancé. "You really think you're any match for her?" "Match for who?" Ethan's voice trembled, the world around him shrinking into chaos and shadows. What truth was spilling out beneath the surface? The guests gasped collectively, tension thickening. Then, with a swift motion, the woman moved, her focus locked on Ethan across the room. "You'll know soon enough, Ethan. But until then, trust no one." A gunshot echoed again, piercing the air. Ethan turned toward the sound, and there, in the distance, a shadow took flight, disappearing into the dark, leaving Ethan alone, trembling with the weight of secrets he never wanted to know. And as the sirens wailed, blending with the screams, he realized that everything he thought to be true had just been set ablaze, leaving him in a storm of uncertainty. What had he unleashed? And who was Isla really? Ethan's heart raced as he kneeled beside Isla, the world around him pulsing with panic. Her eyes were filled with a mix of fear and something like acceptance. A painful recognition that cut through him like ice. The sirens wailed outside, a distant reminder of urgency dancing on the edge of chaos. "Stay with me, Isla," he whispered fervently, desperate not to lose her in this storm. He could feel her warmth fading beneath his hands, each pulse of her heartbeat a reminder of the fleeting moments they had shared. They'd fought through so much, yet here they were, facing the dark truth that had morphed everything into shadows. "Ethan," she breathed, voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't know he would. I thought we were safe." Tears pooled in her eyes, and Ethan couldn't help but feel that weight, the crushing reality of how quickly everything had unraveled. From behind them, the tension hung heavy. Sarah moved in, urgency tightening her features. "We need to get her help, now." She shouted, "Ethan, lift her up! Ethan felt a swell of fear and anger mingling together. He had to do something. He couldn't let panic rule the moment. But as if the universe mourned their plight, the fiancé emerged from the chaos, smirk fading into rage. "You can't protect her," he spat. The crowd was a whirlwind of whispers and gasps. "Everyone get back!" Sarah shouted, stepping protectively in front of Isla, her eyes fierce. Ethan felt the warmth of Isla slipping. "Hold on, Isla, hold on," he begged, cradling her in his arms. Her skin felt cold, and with every passing second, the scene blurred into confusion. "Leave her alone!" Ethan yelled, rising to his feet, the inner fire igniting desperation in him. "What do you want?" You're the tether," the fiancé snarled, taking a menacing step forward, as if ready to strike. But then, in an unexpected twist, the shadowy woman, the one who had announced the chaos, shot forward. "This isn't about you," she barked, her voice slicing through the tension. "This is about the truth, Ethan. Your life is in danger, but so is Isla's if you don't hurry." Time was running out. Everywhere he looked, faces turned bright with blind curiosity, eyes filled with judgment. But Ethan had to focus. He turned back to Isla, her chest rising and falling slower with each breath. "I'll get you out of here," he promised, determination flooding his veins. With one swift motion, he picked her up, holding her close against him. The chaos swirled around them, but Ethan pushed forward, Sarah guiding the way. "Let's move!" she yelled, leading the way toward the exit. He could feel every gaze, the weight of their pity and horror trailing behind him. As they burst through the doors, the sirens wailed louder, flashing lights illuminating the darkened corners of betrayal. Ethan felt the world open up before him, a glimpse of freedom tainted by the weight of his decisions. In the distance, someone shouted about an ambulance. Ethan didn't stop. Forward was the only option now. He was tired of running from the shadows of yesterday. With every step, each pulse of adrenaline surged through him. But as they reached the steps, Ethan hesitated. What about the fiancé? Was this really over? Could he protect Isla, knowing the darkness followed? He turned back, scanning the ruckus, now parting like the sea. The fiancé stood among the crowd, eyes filled with wrath and cunning. "This isn't done!" he shouted, voice laced with venom. The threat hung heavy in the air, like a specter. Ethan took a deep breath, a weight settling in his gut. "Maybe it's just begun," he murmured, as if speaking to himself. He pushed forward, a newfound resolve lighting the way. Whatever darkness awaited, he would face it head-on. As they rushed into the night, Isla nestled against him, breathing slowly. "I'm here," he whispered, and in that moment, a flicker of hope ignited. But would their past ever truly let them go? You have to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And don't wait even a second longer to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this. Let's build this community together.